Let's have a conversation about science, technology, and innovation. And joining us this hour is Dr. Rose Ngugi. She is the Executive Director of KIPPRA. KIPPRA is the Kenya Institute of Public Policy Research and Analysis. And we're also joined by Dr. Joseph Sevilla. He's the Director of ilab Africa. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you on the show. Dr. Joseph, just so we can get your name right, is it pronounced the Spanish way or is it just pronounced with a double L? Is it Sevilla or Sevilla?
In Spanish it's Sevilla. Now, for most people here, it's difficult to know it, or so most people call me Sevilla. It's okay, no problem.
Oh, you've adjusted as well.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. We're going to talk about science, technology, and innovation. But first, let's get to understand the two institutions that you represent. Starting with you, Dr. Ngugi, the Kenya Institute of Public Policy Research and Analysis. Some of us are aware of what you are, but there are many people who don't know what KIPPRA is. Just tell us what KIPPRA is and what you do.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good morning. It's a good opportunity to actually talk about an institution that I'm very proud about, and Kenyans also need to know what we do. So Kenya Institute for Public Policy Research and Analysis is a parastatal that is established under the Act of Parliament, number 15 of 2006, and we operate under the State Department of Planning in the National Treasury and Planning Ministry. We were established about 20 years ago, and we have three key areas that we undertake our activities. One of them is capacity building in public policy process matters, and we try to ensure that we can put in knowledge as far as how to go about generating evidence for public policy is concerned. We also do research, and our research is again meant to generate evidence for policy advice. And then the other aspect we deal with is engagement and networking. And under this, we organize various workshops, including conferences like the one that we'll be having from tomorrow. In a nutshell, we are established by the government to actually support in strengthening the public policy making process.
So in other words, you're like the brain trust of the government when it comes to policy and policy development.
Yes, yeah, I think tank in the government system, yes.
And Dr. Sevilla, what is ilab Africa?
Good morning. ilab Africa is a research and innovation center within Strathmore University. We basically do quite a number of research projects. We do training. And our main areas of activities are in e-health, in cybersecurity. We are also doing a lot in data science, analytics, big data, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. We have another group that is dealing with digital learning, so how to deploy content, mobile applications, things like now teaching through video conferencing or e-learning. Now this has been very useful in this time of the pandemic because we were very ready to move all our teaching online. Then we have another group that is working on applications of Internet of Things, and also in telecommunications, basically last mile connectivity, doing 5G, 4G, or TV white spaces, how to connect to schools in the rural areas, hospitals. We have another group that is doing outsourcing. So this group basically develops local applications for local companies, typically using latest technologies like blockchain, mobile applications, web applications, and the like. Apart from that, we also have another group that is working on internet policy. And a very important activity that we do is done through IBIS Africa, which is our incubator. So through the incubator, we are trying to support young entrepreneurs, people who come with ideas, and they see how they can set up a new business, typically, again, using new technologies or mobile applications. And we help these people by giving them training, teaching them how to, say, do a business pitch, how to register a company, how to access funding, and the like. So that, in a nutshell, is what ilab Africa is. And we have been in operation for about 10 years now.
Dr. Ngugi, I'm also looking at now KIPPRA's involvement with helping the government, obviously being the think tank in all of this. How then are you able to mainstream innovation as a very important function in development in the country? So what exactly are you doing, kind of hand-holding with government to bring out innovation as important as it should be?
Yeah, as I indicated, we do 3 programs: capacity building, research, and engagement. And through all this, we are able to push forward the government agenda. And this time round, we are looking at issues to do with science, technology, and innovation. And one of the things that we are doing is to undertake research activity that focuses on technology and innovation. We have looked at, for example, the kind of innovations that micro and small enterprises are undertaking. And we have found that there is very little innovation that is actually going on as far as the micro and small enterprises are concerned. We've also realized that the technology uptake by micro and small enterprises is actually not as much. And that is why, for example, you'll notice that some of us who went to school in the 1970s, there is that tin box that we used to carry to go to school. It has never changed. It has never improved as far as the quality is concerned. So what we realize is that there is very, very little that is happening as far as jua kali and innovation is concerned. In addition, we have looked at innovation also and technology and research and development for also medium and large firms, especially in manufacturing. And what we have noticed is that in as much as we talk about R&D as crucial for innovation, a lot of R&D that is happening, for example, in Kenya, is being done by government. The private sector is not doing as much, yet it's supposed to be at the forefront of this. But we know that there is quite a lot that the government is doing in setting up the infrastructure and also the policy framework so that it can support science and technology in the country. I remember in 2012 when we hosted the very first African forum on ST&I. And at that point, not only did Kenya participate, but other African countries. And the key commitment that the government did was to say that they are going to put together a policy and institutional framework that will be driving ST&I sector in building a strong knowledge-based economy. So as an institution, our work is actually to do research and gather evidence. And in addition, we have in capacity building a program that we are working with the university students. And what we do is that we bring in the platform farms that try to nurture the innovations that are happening at the university, so that one can see an opportunity for the youth in commercializing the innovations. You know that during the COVID period, there were quite a lot of innovations that were coming up from the universities with the youth, and it is important that we tap into this new knowledge, this new information, these new ideas that the youth are bringing in. And we realize that with COVID, it matters a lot as far as how fast you move with innovation, if you have to change the techniques in which you operate or do your day-to-day life.
Dr. Ngugi and Dr. Sevilla, the question is to actually both of you, given that you're both involved in research processes. I speak from the understanding that research at the end of the day has to have an end product that signifies its success. So, Dr. Ngugi, let me come to you first. What does success look like in the work that you do? At what point, what do you need to see happening for you to feel, yes, we have succeeded in what we set out to do?
Success in the public policy making process comes in when, first of all, you are able to engage all the stakeholders. You are able to listen to them. Remember, our constitution talks about public participation. Having all the views taken into account is very crucial for the policy process. Secondly, success comes in when you see that there is an input that you are making into the policy process. For example, the expectation we have with the conference that is coming up is that as we talk to all the stakeholders, they will tell us that these are the areas that we have some gaps, these are the areas that are emerging, these are the issues that need policy attention, and we'll put all that together and we'll share with the government agencies, government ministries, government departments that actually deal with the various aspects, whether in ICT, whether in education, whether in health. We'll gather all that and we'll actually therefore give the advice that we can do to the government. And when we see that all these things come into the mainstream or are being prioritized by the government in the policy process, then you say that you have succeeded, because when you have put together a policy, then the next thing that you should look for is the implementation of that policy.
So broadly speaking, whenever we see the government implementing something that is successful, credit goes to the work that your institution does. Is that it?
Our institution is just one of the many, it's just one of the arms that actually provides the advice. But we have that mandate actually to generate that knowledge, but at the same time to actually build capacity so that the government in itself, with the various departments, is able to articulate and analyze issues as they emerge, and they are able to actually come up with a clear policy priorities.
Dr. Sevilla, what does success look like? You said that one of the things you do is working with young people in helping them understand the issues of research and development. So the outcome, which signifies success, what does it look like?
Yeah, I think along that line, success will be measured by a number of things. The first one is we do a lot of training in new technologies. This training is directed to young people. So I would say we are successful when we see these people, these young students, either being able to apply these new technologies in the jobs that they are doing, or maybe that helps them to get a job in a company where then they are able to bring these new technologies and improve the way the company works. In some other cases, you are dealing with young entrepreneurs that rather than working or looking for work in a company, they have their own ideas and they decide to set up their companies. So when we see these companies coming up from our students, when we see how they struggle to be successful, when we see them growing the company and actually being successful, then I would say we have been very successful preparing these people for the challenges and helping them overcome these challenges. Even if at times, especially with entrepreneurs, even if they fail, very often that's just part of the learning process. So a good entrepreneur will not be put off if just the first idea that they have failed. He would be able to manipulate and learn from experience and try something else and eventually be successful. I remember,
Go ahead, please.
a very important industrialist here in Kenya. There was a young person who gave him a pitch, and at the end, this guy told him, "Yes, I will invest in your company." "Oh, you like my idea?" "No," he said, "no, I didn't like your idea. I like your attitude. I know that you will succeed, you know?
Right.
That's what I'm investing. I'm investing in your person, not in your idea."
I think I like your example, and let me go with your example and ask: do you have examples of individuals who your ilab, your institution, has mentored, has assisted, and do you have examples of the successes that they have become, and in areas where their innovation has actually helped improve the lives of Kenyans?
We do have. There has been many companies through the years. There was some young girl that I personally mentor, and I remember at the beginning she just didn't understand how to do a business plan. So according to her business plan, her company would as the years went by, the company will lose more and more money. So I explained to her, "Look, with this business plan, nobody's going to invest in you." So she was clever enough to then learn from that, and eventually she was very successful, and she managed to sell the company after a few years to an investor for 150 million. So I would say that was a very good success. Now, you tell me how we are impacting the lives of people. I will tell you, we have a very interesting program, for instance, working with Untitled Chapter. It's called Women in Technology. And through that program, we have been able to mentor, I think, up to date, over 50 companies that are run by women. And in most of the cases, these are companies that we took them when they were starting. They just had an idea. We trained them. Then we helped them grow a standard, gave them some seed capital, and several of them now, they have got major investors. They are actually in quite a variety of applications. Some of them are in areas like mobile learning, others are in insurance, that I'm remembering now. Others are just, there is one that is selling food products, another cosmetic products. So we are just helping these young people to develop their ideas and be successful, okay? And in this case, I think helping young women that are coming up with ideas in technology is a very great thing, because we are helping them to be successful and to change society.
Kenya's biggest conversation continues. We are live on Spice FM, KTN Home, and online, having a conversation about science, technology, and innovation from a policy standpoint and from a research and a practice standpoint. Dr. Rose Ngugi is the Executive Director of the Kenya Institute for Public Policy Research and Analysis, and Dr. Joseph Sevilla is the Director for ilab Africa. And as we were going to the break, Dr. Sevilla, you basically spoke about the kind of little successes that you've seen in your work. And also, Dr. Ngugi, you spoke about the kind of success that you see, okay, when the think tank comes up with policy suggestions and then those policy suggestions and then taken up by government, and you see them being adopted as policy. Now the point of implementation, you look back and you're like, all right, so what we started, the process that we went through has reached a good point of implementation. I want to go back to the issue of the point of encouraging science, technology, and innovation from an early age, from an education point. And maybe Dr. Ngugi, you can tell us the kind of policy that's in place to support the development of young minds into thinking technology and innovation. I know that for a long time, with secondary schools, for example, the secondary school system has had the science congress competitions, and then those students now go into university and go into the other tertiary colleges and institutions. But what is the overall policy of encouraging and inculcating the idea of innovation in young minds?
Yeah, I want to start it from looking at the commitments that the government has made in different documents. For example, in the Constitution, if you look at the chapter that looks at culture, and that is section 11, clause number B, 2B, it says that the state shall recognize the role of science and indigenous technologies in the development of the nation. And it also continues to say that the state shall promote the intellectual property rights of the people of Kenya. This is Constitution 2010. If we look at Vision 2030, the government commits itself to intensifying science, technology, and innovation in the country so that it can enhance productivity and efficiency in resulting to accelerated growth with a knowledge-based economy. Now, I was looking at the current budget that was read, the one that was read recently, and I realized that the government commitment continues. And one of the things that you have seen is with the digital learning program. And what you notice is that even in the current budget, and we look at the annual budget as part of the policy that government spells out in implementing even the Vision 2030. So there is a digital literacy program that is going to receive some funds. We have also the competency-based curriculum that is also going to receive some allocation. But in addition to that is that the government is actually putting in quite a significant amount of money to ensure that we have the technical and vocational education training and entrepreneurship moving on. And at the same time, there is quite a significant amount of money that is also being put on a national research fund. And the digital digitization of the economy, what the government has proposed to do is, first of all, to push ahead with the implementation of the Konza City, our Silicon Valley, and at the same time also support the maintenance of the fiber optic, and also support with the industrial parks and also the special economic zone. So I'm bringing all this just to show you the kind of spectrum within which the government is operating in supporting the youth. Mm-hmm. When you look at the youth from the education system, there is the changes that have been made as far as the curriculum is concerned. When we get to the place of work, there is also an effort that is being done. And I want to talk about the digital learning literacy program, because when we start exposing the small minds to the world and what it does, it's very different from those days when we were in school, in primary school, and the only thing that you knew is your shopping center, your school, and your home. You didn't know much about what is even happening in the world. But at the moment, the technology that we are bringing, the devices that we are using, even in the teaching, is actually exposing the minds of our people to explore and to be inquisitive, to be innovative, to think beyond in terms of sorting out their issues. You know, with science and technology, the whole aspect is how do you address societal problems in a systematic knowledge and also in an innovative way. So sometimes when we look at science and technology, we think that it's far away from us. But when our children are even being taught what to do in their homework, how to operate in the kitchen, how to even do sewing and the like, they are actually being taught that maybe in the future you can be the best designer, maybe in the future you can be the best cook to, you know, with the cakes and the like, and you can be a very good entrepreneur. But one of the things that we'll also find is that when they get out of school and they go to the micro and small enterprises, then it becomes a little bit difficult to see them growing because in some cases, as I said, the innovation is not coming out. But what we have seen is that innovation is not coming out because the funding for SME and SMEs is an issue. But what we notice is the government budget this time round, they have put up actually a seed money in the loan guarantee scheme, which will open up and provide some funding, which is also being put through the Kenya Industrial Estate. Remember, Kenya Industrial Estate is one of those institutions that was set a long time ago to not only provide some funding, but also to nurture the small or the growing enterprises to mature and also bring in technology, adopt, innovate, and be able to stabilize and move out from the shed and grow to be a big institution. In addition, when we think about research and development, we always argue that without putting adequate funds to research and development, you may not necessarily provide the necessary infrastructure for innovation. So even at schools, when we see that there is drama clubs, not drama, but research clubs that are coming up at universities, like now we are working with our universities that are collaborating with us in a program. And we are saying, let's set up also research, policy research clubs. And when you set them up, which means you are giving them an opportunity to actually bring in their ideas, even at the policy level, because policy is also driven by the ideas that come from our research. So for me, when I see all these things coming, I feel that there is a lot of effort that the government is doing in putting together the infrastructure that is required for innovation, not just at the school, but even when you get
Dr.
out
Ngugi,
of school,
if I may really interrupt you here, I like the aspirations and I like the forward thinking, but what percentage of our GDP does the government allocate to research?
Yes.
Yes, I think you know where I'm going with this, because
Yes.
0.5% cannot represent seriousness. It doesn't matter what arithmetic formula you use. So if the government seriously talks about wanting to help innovate, and the percentage they allocate to research is that amount, then one has to question whether we will actually get to the promised land, really. I mean, you are in policy, and I'm certain that you understand, and I'm also certain you have advised that 0.5% is not even a drop in the ocean. It's actually not even a drop. So what is it that can be done so that the seriousness with which we say these things is backed up with the support that only a budgeted issue can resolve? As in, instead of 0.5, talk about 5%. Then we can say we have begun the march forward.
Best practices have actually shown us that even the countries that have moved forward with the innovation, they are spending about 2% of GDP.
They have very large economies,
The
Dr.
economies are
Ngugi.
huge.
Yes,
Yeah, so
I
that
know. And I'm
2% is a
coming. I'm
colossal
coming.
amount.
Yeah. So, so, um, so when we talk about SPNI policy in Kenya, we have actually committed to give or to move to about 2% of GDP. By the end of the MCP3, it's very clear that we are still not yet at 1%. We are about 0.79% of GDP, not 5%. Yeah. Yes, it's a little bit low, but as I said also, it's the government that is actually doing too much of the research and development. The private sector also has a role to play. And when we think about the large farms and also the small farms, they are not doing a lot as far as research and development is concerned. And the key issue that comes out is about the appropriateness of the funding. You know, when you're doing research, it takes a while for you to get the output at the end of the day. It's not something that you just start now and tomorrow you get the returns. And when the private sector looks at this, sometimes they're like, you know, I'll take time to actually get the results. It's not be tomorrow, maybe 1 year. But with appropriate funding set aside even for them, they can actually manage. In these developed countries, actually, a lot of the research is actually not being done by the government. It's being done by the private sector. So the private sector also needs to come in and put money aside for research and development. So that
Dr. Ngugi, in the developed countries, the governments also partner with private enterprises to do research.
Yeah.
Because the private sector has certain facilities and means that the government may not have. But do we have such partnership in this country? Does the government partner with private enterprise to do precisely that? In a country like ours where we don't even have a research culture that you can actually speak of.
You know, when I mentioned about KIE, when Kenya Industrial Estate was being set up, it was not just to provide funds to the small enterprises. It was also to grow that entrepreneurial element and also to open their mind to innovation.
Yep.
Maybe we have not performed as well with the KIE, and we are now moving towards the industrial parks. And with the industrial parks, the key element that one should see is where you are not seeing the MSMEs being set up in commercial areas, but they are being set up in a conglomeration of even with the small, with the medium and the large enterprises, which means that when that is done, there can be diffusion of technology innovation from the large to the small. There can be kind of synergies that can come out of there. Industrial parks, by just the government giving that infrastructure, which it has committed to do, that to me is a way forward in terms of creating incentives for the private sector to engage in research and development.
How do you see the situation as it currently is transitioning from where we are to the point whereby you will now be able to plug in real live human beings into this structure that has been set up over time? Because I hear you saying now funding has been released, budget has been increased, we're working on the infrastructure. When are we actually going to see the results of all of this groundwork start to take effect and start to take shape? That individuals, groups in this country can now plug into this infrastructure and say, because of the innovation and creation that has been set up by bodies such as KIPPRA, for example, doing it on behalf of the government, I have now seen this result. We have X company that has been able to set up and do this as a result of this policy that has been put in place. Because without that, it's a policy sitting in a policy cupboard somewhere. That upon the implementation is when you actually see that this thing has succeeded. So when do we see things like this taking shape?
Right. I'll therefore give an example from the work that KIPPRA is doing. You see, in science, you have social sciences and you have the other physics and the like. But for KIPPRA, we can say we are in social sciences. And when we think about what we are trying to do, or we have been mandated to do, is actually what we are doing. First of all, is to build capacity. And we have a program that we call the Young Professionals Program. And through that program, we bring in young people just at the beginning of their career. They could be working from the government. They could also be coming from the private sector. And the idea is that when you give them the opportunity to learn how to do policy analysis, how to do policy research, the next thing that you should see is them supporting the institutions that they go back to in coming up with a clear, options as far as even innovative ways of doing things is concerned. In addition, I have also said that KIPPRA is actually working with the universities. And the reason why we are tapping into the university community is because most of us, even when we call ourselves researchers, we have been nurtured actually by the universities. And most of the students at the universities, sometimes they even don't understand the development agenda. But what we have realized is that you can actually tap into those young minds and be able to get very innovative ideas for policy. So I can say that policy process is a process, research is also a process, science, technology, and innovation is also a process. And it takes a while, but it also requires quite a lot of skilled manpower. It also requires a lot of funding. And at the moment, when you think about the government trying to ensure that there is a 100% transition from primary to secondary education, and even the setup of CVS institutions is actually trying to strengthen that system that help us in research and development, and also in strengthening the STNI.
Dr. Ngugi, tell us about the conference that KIPPRA is organizing, what you aim to achieve, and who you aim to attend this conference.
Yeah, thank you very much. The conference that we are organizing starts tomorrow. It is a 3-day conference. It will be a hybrid given the COVID situation. We'll have limited capacity for physical attendance, and we'll have quite a number who will come through virtually. We have a wide spectrum of participants that we are expecting, including government institutions that work in the STNI sector. They'll be able to tell us exactly what is it that they are doing. We also have the private sector that will also tell us what is going on and what are the gaps that they see in the policy arena. We also have the civil society that will also be participating. And over and above that, we have the youth event. And in the youth event, we are trying to bring in students from the universities so that they can also dialogue among themselves and ask the key questions in terms of where are the opportunities for us as far as STNI is concerned, and what is it that can be done to commercialize the innovations that they come up with. So this, therefore, is a conference that is going to bring a diverse participants and stakeholders, because for us, what we are looking for is conversation, exchange of views, and learning from each other on what is happening. We have also universities that will be participating, and Strathmore is also part of the universities that we have invited. And so that conversation in itself should be able to give us a clear picture of issues that we should move ahead with in terms of policy process, and in terms of feeding back to the government institutions that are actually promoting or working in the SPNI industry. So I really would want to welcome all virtually so that they can also make their contribution to the conference that we are holding from tomorrow.
And it will be very nice and interesting to have a conversation post-conference once you have collated all the views that are gathered in that conference to hear what's coming out, what's emerging as the main areas of focus for all these various stakeholder groups, the government, private sector, civil society, academia, and also the youth themselves. Thank you very much for speaking to us this morning, Dr. Rose Ngugi, Executive Director of KIPPRA, the Kenya Institute for Public Policy Research and Analysis, and also from the university, Dr. Joseph Sevilla, Director of ilab Africa. Asanteni sana and have a good day.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Bye.